Welcome to the Art of Transitions. My name is Gwen Mazza, and I am your host. Today's conversation will be with our guest, Jim Lang, and he and I will be introducing and having a conversation regarding choosing a life of integrity. Please stay tuned and join us in just a moment.
Learn how to fight mannequinism. Log on.
Welcome back to the Art of Transitions. And our guest today is Jim Lang. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Good, Gwen. How are you?
Good, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for being invited.
It is so much fun to have you here today, and I'd like to tell a little about you to the audience. Jim and I have known each other for probably 20 years now.
Yes.
And we have had opportunities to work in similar environments together, and I know this man to be a great man, and he's also a wonderful friend. I asked him to come on the show today because there are some pieces about Jim that I would like him to be able to share with our audience that I think might be very helpful for us as a community. One of the things I know about Jim is that he is very guided by certain principles in his life, and because of that commitment to his principles and his values, I asked him to come in and be our guest to speak on the concept of integrity and the issue of integrity in our lives. Would you take a moment and do us the honor of describing what you mean by the word integrity and why that word became so important to you?
I believe integrity is really about your character. Mm-hmm. It's about who you are. It's about honesty. Yes. It's about truthfulness. And you really wear it like a badge. Mm-hmm. And everyone who you know in your life can see it. Mm-hmm. And it shows in everything you do. Mm-hmm. And as you grow and learn and you experience more things in your life, I think you kind of hone in more on, how valuable that integrity is. Mm-hmm. In the, more than just the word. Mm-hmm. It's your actions and your behaviors. And the older you get and the more experience you get, hopefully mm-hmm. you will, mm-hmm. Learn to use it to be more successful.
Well, we see a lot of companies, we see a lot of individuals tout the word integrity, and my concern sometimes is that it gets so used so frequently it loses its value. So as you talk about integrity as seen in your actions and your behaviors, and you really witness it as a person, and I've watched you through the years grow and develop, mm-hmm. and I think you could probably say the same for me.
Yes.
And I think that in part of our conversation earlier, we talked about integrity really is ongoing too.
Yes.
Can you think about the first time when you just heard the word? What was it like for you? Do you remember even where you were?
I was kind of looking a little bit, and I think back of when I was in high school and working, playing sports and all that. And mm-hmm. I remember our coach just, talking and saying when he was listening, talking to us, and he'd have you, look right in his eyes. Mm-hmm. And he didn't so much say the word integrity at that time,
right.
but that was what he was really talking about. And then when going through college, you started learning more about it, mm-hmm. and that's really when you really start to understand what it means, mm-hmm. And working with your first, group.
Mm-hmm.
We did the work in the consulting, and you work with your first team.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have that integrity.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all you have when you walk into that group for the very first time.
Mm-hmm. So integrity being a concept of how you choose to live your life, being consistent.
Yes.
Being authentic.
Yes. Being
genuine, and being who you say you are.
Yes.
Great. Some of the things that you and I've talked about over the years have included how to, because I know that you have done coaching and consulting. I also know that you've also had the opportunity to lead team as well as training programs in your different careers.
Yes.
How did you see this concept of integrity challenged?
I think there's always people in groups that want to, they struggle with the concept you're trying to, work with them on. Mm-hmm. We'll say it's team development.
Okay.
Everyone has a different definition of what team development is, what teamwork is. They've all had good experiences, bad experiences, and your integrity with that is really getting them to understand that it's, your job as a leader is to keep the team safe. So they can explore and they can learn and they can really figure that out themselves. And they watch you, and they watch your actions and your behaviors, and it's like a blinking billboard. And so you have to understand if things aren't working well, you have to look at yourself first and say, what am I doing to contribute to this?
So both of us have talked about how important it is to do insightful work and to be really honest with ourselves, and for our audience to be able to have an opportunity to really become more honest with themselves and assess where they are, say, on the integrity meter. And to really understand that a lot of us go through that growing place when you first kind of learn about the concept, or you find, oh, these values or these guiding principles in my life, how do I want this to look? What do I really want to do? You move past that place of being self-centered and self-absorbed, which I think all of us can probably do pretty well. And then we start to get a little quieter and start to be more reflective. And you saw it in the beginning when you had a role model of a coach who actually didn't say the word, but he actually role modeled it for you.
Absolutely.
Then you started to learn more about that concept, and that became a real sweet spot, a real word that invited you, it sounds like.
Very, I would call it more passion.
More passion. There was a passion behind it. You wanted to learn more about it? You wanted to become it?
I wanted to absorb as much as I could, and you want to be around other people who are like that as well. And once you really understand it, you just can't help but stop wanting to, it's like you can't get enough of it. So you continue to go out and learn as much as you can about it, talk to as many people as you can about it, and share as much as you can about it with, with whoever will listen to you.
Isn't that a neat
and that's what you want to try to do. And I was, just this past weekend, I was at a trade show, and they had seminars, and there was a gentleman there who was talking about customer service, and he was from Ritz-Carlton. And I thought it was great because he really brought it down into the integrity level of the individuals that do the work. And he said they do ordinary things well, extraordinary well every day. So it's just very nicely put, doing ordinary things extraordinary well. And that to me was just, and owning it.
And being proud and embracing it?
Yes. And those are, when you look at what the Ritz-Carlton and what they do, their people, they own it. They own their, the whole any issue that comes to them, they take care of it. Whether it's, you could go to the, cashier in the guest services area, and you talk about you have a plumbing problem in your room. Right. They own that problem. Now,
so that person owns it.
They may not do the work. But their job is to, call maintenance and get that. And they will follow up with you and make sure that it's done. And that's a big thing about integrity. It's empowering people to say, you know what, you do have the skills, you do have the ability to be able to do this. You don't need to call a manager. You don't need to do this. You can if you have to, but the the ultimate goal for leadership is to be able to teach your people that.
So there's two more pieces that came out as we're chatting here, and that is ownership. Okay. And part of the process of living an integritous life is this little other element of, I get to own this too. I get to be part of this, as well as, oh wow, there is a new concept of empowering me. I have the ability to complete a task, which is really what empowerment is the ability to know that you have the capability of completing something.
It's very much, we call it the, coming full circle, and congruence, and it's very much all those aspects play a real big part in it. So the more you can practice it, and you're not perfect at first. We all make mistakes, and I think that's one of the other issues with that teams and leadership has is they don't want to make a mistake. Well, guess what? We all make mistakes, and we have to. The question is, how do you learn from it, and how do you move past it,
That's right.
and not make it again.
I'm very good at making mistakes. I think I have a lot
am
of
I.
friends, friends and family who would really be able to validate that. And I also believe that integrity is lifelong, and we're always growing into it. And I'm certain that I'm going to make mistakes, some that I'm going to be okay with, some that I'm not going to be proud of in the future. And what I can do, as well as you and I talk about, is we get to own them, and then we get to learn from them. And I believe that that part of that transition experience, where you have an ending where you say, okay, I'm making a lot of things, bad choices here, I'm making some choices that are really not helping me. And then when we begin to recognize that this needs to somehow have a lot of an ending to these not so great choices. And then that funky time where we're trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to conduct my life?
That's right.
And we pick out certain values.
That's right.
And mine personally tend to gravitate towards the value of grace, the value of peace, and you know that about me. Authenticity. I really appreciate genuine relationships, and integrity. And that's one that has always been growing in my life, and I pray that I can keep it going as well.
Yes.
When you think about moments in your life that it got a little bit of a boost, the piece of, I really want this even more, where does parenting fall into that when you had those two beautiful boys? What did that do to that?
Yeah, I think when, when my wife first was pregnant with our first son,
right,
whose name is JJ, and he's named after me.
Yes,
what a great name.
Yes, yes.
I knew right there, that was going to be a life-changing event, and when our second child was born, Anthony, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
So it was very much, just like we spoke before. I'm a father now.
Yes, you are.
And I'm also a husband.
Right.
And both my kids see that. So going back to that leadership thing of you get this blinking billboard. I'm a blinking billboard for my kids, and they see it through my actions and through my behaviors and how I respond to things and how I respond to them and their questions. And so I take a lot of heart into that because that's my pride and joy. And so it really is no different than being a leader at work. It really isn't. It's just I want to make sure that my actions meet my words and my behaviors are what I am, and I'm consistent. And show them that you care for them. I mean, just like you would at work. Letting people know that you care for them. And that was a moment, when my first son was born. That's the moment when you really understand that, this is different now.
I'm different now.
Everything's going to change. But it really was a great change. And it was a good change, and it was a change that we've always wanted. So. I was excited about it, and you get excited about you wanting to show them those things, and you get excited about wanting to show them the right way. I mean, I get very proud when I see, both my sons. I mean, they're 8 and 6 years old,
right? And
my oldest likes the, he's a little negotiator, like his father. So I love that. And I want him to be able to, but I want him to do it in the right way.
Right.
So, and my other son likes to wait until, everyone's at the table for dinner, and then he'll, he waits till then he'll say grace. He likes to be the one to say the grace. So he makes sure everyone's sitting there first. And so I believe I'm teaching them the right way. So, it's good to see it coming through them. And my littlest son now is just started karate, which I think is great.
Yes.
I took it when I was younger, and I loved it because it was a disciplined approach to life. And the opening statement, he has to learn. I'm down.
Right.
I'm in Tampa, and he's telling me over the phone that I have to learn this creed. Right. And I thought, well, that's a really great word. And it starts with I come to you with open hands, and it's pretty much what integrity is all about, And so he's learning it. Image. Yeah, he's learning it already. Is that karate is, as much as it is about self-defense, it's also about an art, and it's also about I come to you with open hands. I don't want anything to happen, So he's learning, and he loves it. So, and I think that's what it is. That's to me was that defining moment of when you can make an impact and you see that light click when you're kids, or you see that light click when you work with a, when you're working with a client or you're working with a team, that's what it is. That's for me. That's when you get the passion. That's when you get that fire in your belly. That's when you feel all that, and it makes it worth, like, yeah, this is the right choice I made.
Part of the concept of integrity that we're talking about that really impressed me was this quiet message from you is do no harm.
Yeah.
Integrity also encompasses do no harm.
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to that? You talked about the open hands, open arms, come to me.
Yeah, I
and
think
do no harm.
I think when you first learn, when you become a facilitator and you go through training and you learn, the very first rule they teach you is, you need to keep the room safe. You need to keep the room safe for people will be open and they'll respond to you. They'll answer the questions and they'll give you the feedback you're looking for. And you have to really understand, and they talk about natural boundaries, and that's where I really started you can read it and then you understand, like, okay, I understand what it means to, don't pass this line, it's always stay in the front of the room, things like that. But there's really more to that than that. It's just, there's boundaries in place, and there's the areas where you just know that it's, you own it. And this, if you really want to make the accomplishment, you have to really, they have to believe in you, and they have to, see that coming out of you, and that, that you really want to help them. And you do that by meeting them where they're at. Right. And understanding the situation as best as you can, and just letting them know in very open and honesty that, I'm here to help you as much as I can, but I need your help too. And
so the invitation.
we're gonna do this together, and and there are going to be times where, yes, I might challenge the idea or a concept, but or a belief, but I'm never going to challenge you as an individual. I'm not going to point somebody out. I'm not going to, I might challenge your concept, but I'm not going to do anything to hurt you or, make you feel, oh, he just knocked me down as a person, or,
right, or less than.
You have to be very, you have to understand where these people are coming from. And you can tell that when you work with a team, and you have to do your homework, and you have to look at the group as every individual and say, you know what, I respect all of you, and I'm here to help you.
So it rolls into the workplace. This is a 24/7 concept.
It is.
It is a piece, a guiding principle, as we talked about, that you've chosen to live. 24-hour concept, 24/7 concept, plus you roll it over into home. So you may be challenging children's concepts or beliefs.
Yes.
And the gift that we invite our community to remember is it's one thing to challenge the concept, it's another piece to challenge or, challenge the child in terms of a hurtful statement that may not be good for the development.
I think looking back, one of my proudest moments with teams was working with some adolescents. And we did a lot of experiential learning, which is going out and, working on some, outside in nature and testing the limits of some of their own internal fears.
How did you do that? What kind of exercises did you introduce?
One of them was, the most defining one for me was we were out and there was it was called Kong's Ladder. And it's about a 60-foot high climb where you start off, and it's between two trees, and there's basically a makeshift ladder, and you start off with 2-3 feet steps, and it gets a little higher and a little more challenging. And I remember this one young lady who was just there, and she just very low self-esteem, wasn't sure about herself, confidence was very low. And she decided that she wanted to try the Kong's Ladder, and she went and got halfway up there, and then she wanted to quit, and I said, you can't. I said, I want you to finish it. I said, keep going, and everyone started to cheer for her.
Right.
And she did it.
Did she really?
And she came down.
Right.
And it was a great time. She cried, and I said, and I said to her, what are you crying for? After I gave her a hug, I said, what are you crying for? She goes, It's the first thing I've ever accomplished in my life.
Wow.
So,
wow.
You know, and that was a big thing for her. So, and the team heard that, and that kind of brought back to them, like, wow, this is why I'm here. So, you know, and so I've you know, worked with that with kids, and I've done the same thing with adults as well. And you know, CEOs and everything else, and they go through the same aspects of this one girl went through. I can't, you know, maybe I can't do this, and then people give them the support, and they do it, and they actually accomplished it. So it was a great, you know, it was a great experience for this, not only for this girl, but it's made an impression and impact on everybody that was there. That, you know, you can accomplish something. You just have to work a little bit at it, and I hope it changed her life. I think it did. So, you know.
You are truly a passionate man and very, very willing to share what you know. And as I sit with you, I am fully aware of the passion behind the importance that you know. It's not a think, and it's not a belief. It's you know that by imparting certain gifts, and yours is integrity, along with many others, Jim, I got to tell you, that just speaks to one part of who you are. What is your real hope? What is your purpose in sharing these particular kind of gifts with our community, whether it's through being a parent or a general manager or a trainer, and not only just this community, but the community at large internationally? What is your hope that you could do most of all?
I guess my hope is that, you know, whenever you work with a team or even an individual, your hope is that it makes an impact on their life enough that they pass on to somebody else. And when they pass on to somebody else, you're hoping that, you know, it's kind of that pay it forward kind of mentality where you hope that you really reach enough where they're going to be, you know, I'm not so concerned about them thanking me as much as it makes an impact in their own life somewhere. And then they go and want to make the impact themselves somewhere else in their life. And, you know, because, you know, as you know, a lot of times you work with teams and eventually it does come to an end and you move on to, there's another thing. But so the hope is that you've instilled it in them enough where, you know, they take over. You know, and they start doing it. And it's always great when they become, and then you hopefully sometimes you see them out, and you'll see people out sometimes, and they'll say, you know what, I'll teach our salespeople is that you want them to remember you the most, and that is the most important thing. No matter what you do, at the end of the day, they need to remember Gwen the most. They're going to be, you know, bombarded with all kinds of calls that day, or any kind of interaction with people, you know, and it really doesn't matter. You know, it could be the carpeting guys coming in, or I got to talk to the phone company. I'm getting phone calls for whatever. But at the end of the day, you want them to remember, but you know what? You know, Gwen made the most impression on me. She had the best impact on me. Now, all those issues are totally unrelated to each other. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they remembered you. And that's what you want, and who you are. And they're going to do that because if you're honest and you're sincere, that's what's going to do that. If your integrity, you know, kind of bleeds out of you like perfume. They smell it, they feel it, and whether you get it, you know, make the sale, so to speak, or not, they're still going to know. You know what? You may not get the first one, but I guarantee you they're going to call you again. And I had that just happen over the weekend, and that was something that, you know, they really said. And people came up to us and said, you know, I remember you from the last show. And you know, you were talking about this, and you know, can we talk about that some more? And so when you get to the point where people remember you, you know, and you've made that kind of impact, and they start asking you more questions, then you know that, you know, you've made an impact in someone's life, and that's what it's all about. And I think it's you know, we all have our jobs to do, but it's nice, you know, to go home at the end of the day, especially in this type of world, and, you know, go home at the end of the day and you can really sit down and, you know, lay down at night and say, you know what, I did good things today. And that's what it is for me. I mean, business aside, you can go and rest your head and say, you know what, either I helped somebody, or I made someone's life different, or I made an impact. And a lot of it it's not complex. It's just, but you can lay down and say, you know what, I did a good job today. And
you know, one of the things I think is real important for our viewing audience to know and hear is it is absolutely wonderful to be able to go home and lay your head on that pillow. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind speaking to another really important part of this concept, and that is sometimes our integrity takes some severe blows.
Sure.
We choose choices that, as we talked about in the earlier, aren't the greatest. How do you walk through those kind of moments? How do you heal from making really poor choices? What have you experienced in your own life, or what have you had to walk through with other team members, or even in your own family? How do we get through those moments? Yeah,
I think from a business point of view, I'll go back to one of the first consultants I worked with. He had a saying that, no one ever calls us when things are going great.
Yes.
So, you know right away when you're going in there that there's some kind of problem. So from that perspective, you have to look at it and say, okay, I need to really be aware of what's going on here. And, so from a business perspective, that's kind of what I've never forgotten that phrase. People never call you when things are going well. So the
first step is to understand that things aren't going well and to have that insight.
Yes.
Business or personal.
Personal. And meet them where they're at.
Be honest about it.
Meet them where they're at. Be honest with it. In my personal life, I look at it as kind of like I think I watched that Rocky Balboa movie, and I think it was like, it's not how if you get knocked down, it's how you get up. And I think you have to get up. And I read somewhere, somebody said when it comes to integrity, at the end of the day, it's all you have, and you will be challenged in your life with it. And when that time comes, or that moment comes, you just simply have to deal with it. You have to be ready to, defend it and stand up for what you think is right. And when that time comes, you have to do it. And it may be difficult. It may be very, very challenging. But you have to always, stand up for what you believe in. Take the high road. And I think
you do it with a sense of grace.
You do it with you're professional, and you do have dignity. And again, you still. I think of everything as keeping it safe, because I don't want to, you don't want to harm anybody,
Right.
But it's how you come up from that, and you have to realize that yes, I'm going to make mistakes, and the key is how what can you do to make up for it, and if you make if I make a big blunder, then I make a big blunder, and I'll go and I'll admit it, and I'll move on, and hopefully I learn from it, and hopefully I think...
So there's 3 steps to that. One of the things I just heard you said, and really was very powerful, is it's how I get up from it.
Yeah.
So how you recover from it, and part of that first piece is to identify that, yes, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm in a mess. 2, what do I want to do with the situation I'm in?
Yes.
How am I going to get through this? And then the third step to that, to get you to that other side, is really looking at what are the gifts from the situation I've gone through. And in my life, having gone through that again and again, because I'm human first,
yes.
What I know is that the gifts actually help me to become a much stronger, healthier, wiser person. And being with you, it's been neat to share parts of our lives together.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you for that opportunity. You are one of the most integritous men I've ever met. So thank you for allowing me to be in your presence, not only today, but for many days. And I'm looking forward to a great future of watching not only you and myself grow, but others who are impacted by this great conversation. So on that note, I want to thank our viewing audience for spending a little time with Jim and I today, again, and encourage you, if you'd like to reach Jim or just have a great conversation with him, you'll see his contact information appear on the screen, as well as you can email us through Inspirit at inspirit7.com, and we'll be glad to connect you with Jim. If you have ideas or suggestions for a topic of your own, please once again contact us, and we would be glad to have a conversation with you. On that note, thank you and have a great day.
This program was produced through Penfield Community Television in Penfield, New York.